more than 1.5 ton. By the way, 1.5 ton is almost like the size of an elephant, right? Who said that? Right? The guys who made the first computer. Yeah, that was their view. I mean, think about computers, right? Stuff that I just picked up is definitely not 1.5 ton. It's quite powerful. The most interesting one for me on this slide. Internet, who the hell wants it? Imagine who said that, right? Bill Gates. And this is true. And the reason I pick up these quotes is because this is a great example of where you've just driven innovation and you think, aha, I've arrived. And a few years later, you will realize that the world has moved ahead. Right? A big example that you would have heard is in the old world of camera and photography. You had the camera rolls, right? The film rolls. And there was somebody who said, what if we get out of the film rolls and actually have something which is digitized? And people said, bullshit, everybody likes photographs, right? Can you imagine life without digital cameras today? How many of us have camera with the roll which you have to go develop? Some of us might just for sake of, that, for like they say, the sake of the old days. But other than that, can you imagine life without digital cameras? And by the way, all of that now sits into your phone. Your phone becomes your camera becomes your computer becomes, your mobile. So the world is consolidating, but some of these guys never thought this would happen. Right? Just examples of how even big leaders and leaders who we recognize as innovators sometimes did not see enough into the future. Right? So a thought that I'm going to leave with you is, if you look at any of this journey and come back to the conversation that I want to kind of lead into, which is around driving innovation, banking in the banking industry, I'm going to take examples of some of that on how the banking industry has changed. But there are three things that happen. One is people and leadership. You cannot drive change without people and leadership, right? This thing, leadership as influence, is absolutely key. Because if you can't influence, you can't drive change. And you can't influence if you are not a leader. Obviously, you need organizations who will think in that manner. And you have to be always watchful of what the market wants. Because if you deliver stuff that market doesn't want, it won't work. Right? And somewhere in that journey is your customer. And as I'm hoping that all of you will pass out of this esteemed organization, either as entrepreneurs or as joining some organization somewhere, you will always interact with customers in some form or the other. I'm yet to hear of any organization which is very successful and has no customer. Though that's quite a debated conversation. In my head, you only exist as good as your customer is. Is that me moving or some loose connection or what? Okay. There are four dynamics of how change is moving in the banking industry. And you should see this, right? And you should watch this. Because as you step into the banking industry, it could be different as well. I'll give you an example. When I sat like this, almost 17 years back in a session, banks in those days, and some of my colleagues in the front seat will relate, banks opened from 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, right? And some banks stayed open till 4 in the evening. Our parents would take a day off, take a holiday to go and update their passbook. Okay, that was a ritual. Every month somebody had to go and update a passbook from the banking account to know that you have a bank balance, right? So that is how the transaction was as banking of old days. When I started my career, I started with Bank of America. I'm a bit struggling a bit. Should I use something else? I think it's... No, it's not a hum. It's some loose connection, I think. Fine, maybe you should leave it here and then, if I can get a cordless. So when I started with Bank of America, there was this my mentor was a country head of the retail bank. And he came to me and he said, we were chatting, and obviously he was mentor, big man. I was kind of just student out of college. One One day he said, you know what, why do we keep cribbing about customers and lack of branches and all that? Why don't we just set up a bank that runs 365 days a year, 10 in the morning to 7 in the evening, so that people don't have to take holidays and they can even go on a Independence Day and bank if they want. And I was in that room where there were a lot of other senior people, I was still a kid, looked at him and said, "Aaj to bhang pi ke aaya." And that's not too far off, right? I'm talking about 1996, 97. Bank of America was the first bank that did 365-day banking in India, open from 10 in the morning to 7 in the evening. Today, it's norm in the banking industry. We were, and some of you might have heard this, that foreign banks, take time to get their licenses and number of branches and all that because of the way the construct operates. Somebody was telling him, "Sir, we can't do business because, we don't get branches. If you don't get branches, how can we do business?" He said, "Fine, if you don't have branches, take bank to customers' homes." In 95, 96, people looked at him and again said the same thing. They said, "Pata nahi, which side did he get up on?" Today, there is something called as doorstep banking, which is acceptable. You can call a bank and say, "I want money," they will deliver money at home. Every bank will do that. Or most banks do that. Right? You want a car today? You just have to tell somebody that I'm thinking of buying a car. You will have 7 banks, 25 salesmen standing outside. You call me at 12 o'clock in the midnight, I will come, sir, no problem. Wherever you want me, I will come. Right? Please take auto loan from me or a house loan from me. This was the same world where to get a Bajaj scooter, people waited for 7 years, and to get a Fiat car, it took almost 14 years. Right? And when they gave Fiat cars, and my mama used to work for Fiat, the demand was so high, their demand was 150 cars a day. The company's production capacity was 60 cars a day. Because of bonus incentives, which wrongly worked, as you know now what has happened to that company, they would do 120 cars, but that car would be without the bonnet, without the doors, and without the cover for the boot. And dealers would take that car saying, "Gaadi to le lo, darwaze aate rahenge." Reality, right? So from there, today, you can go to any car and you can walk out of the key at a faster pace. You don't have to wait for 10 to 14 years and definitely not for 7 years to get a two-wheeler. The world is changing, right? Your customers, therefore, like personalization. Personalization, they want to be treated special. When you walk into Meridian, you want somebody out there and say, "Hello, thank you for coming," kind of stuff, right? We all like that. Okay? We want convenience. I'm not going to come to the bank. I want the bank to come to me. If I want to buy a car and you want to give me a loan, you come to me. I'm not coming to you. Right? So the world has changed, right? Very demanding self-service. If you look across economy, in the last few years, as you know, and especially those who are in the banking world will know this even better, right? Margins are reduced, big competition, growth rates are quite stagnant. India is probably a bit of an exception, but if you look at the world economy, it's going through very difficult times. Regulations. 20 years back, somebody said, "Oh, you want a regulator, don't worry, give them all the information they need and then ensure that they get good tea, coffee, dinner, lunches, and they'll be happy." That's not true, no longer. In fact, one of the reasons why I would say very strongly that we in the Indian industry have survived is because we've got very good regulators like RBI. Yeah? Sometimes people think, "Oh, regulators, they make life difficult." But the fact is they guard the interest of the common man. Regulation is very invasive. They now want capital buffers. You can't go bust. You can't suddenly take money and say, "Now what can I do? My bank cannot give money back, so let me shut down." Doesn't work. You are committed to keeping that liquidity so that the common man on the street is protected. So I think invasive regulation in some form, but I would also say that kind of helps us stay in good stead. And technology, right? And disruptive, as the example you gave. Configurable, modular. You can't, in today's day and age, say, "I will take 5 years to develop something." In 5 years is like 50 years of the past. Yeah, the example where it took 38 years to communicate through a radio, right? 4 years to communicate through something like a TV / similar initiative. Today, where we are, It's in seconds, probably nanoseconds. And therefore, I think, if I look at the journey of banking itself, and if I look at success factors, if I look at the success factors, if I look at how people or employees were looked at, if I look at the organizational strategy, and if I look at systems and processes, right? So anything in the organization typically, and it's not just banking, I think you can almost make this chart for any organization, any industry, right? In the old world, everything was about branches. And I told you this example where, this guy who I would really see was a future thinker in the banking turned around and said, we will take money home, right? So suddenly banking became products. You want a car loan? We'll come home, right? But it became very product-led. I think somewhere tomorrow it's, in my opinion, a one-stop financial shop. People think I'm joking, but I really think that at one stage banking will also help you organize marriages and host marriages, right? So basically anything that is important in your life, bank will deliver. Because that is how you create connect. And it's very service driven. If you can't do good service, which is reliable, resilient, and something that is repeatable, you will fail. I was at one of the famous hotels, a very big chain in India. And I had taken my management team to talk to them. And I said, tell me what is so special about your hotel as compared to others? There's so many hotels coming up, international chains, big hotels, lavish hotels. And they said, we have very simple rule, 4 rules. And it's a good thing to think about for anybody, especially in the entrepreneurial kind of thinking, how you would want to set your company. Right? The first rule is, they said, whenever somebody walks into the hotel, they have to know your name, especially if you're a repeat customer. So they make a lot of effort to remember you. So they'll say, Mr. Fatherford, thank you for coming. Okay? The second thing is, they have to remember one thing about that customer that's very special to that customer and what the customer wants. So I'll give you an example. Because I travel a lot, I like in my hotel room an iron and an ironing board so that I can kind of get my clothes the way I like it. Right? Very unique to me, probably. Every time I go to this hotel, anywhere in India, the moment I check in and they'll say, Mr. Fatherford, thank you for coming back, they'll say, your iron and your ironing board is in the room. Right? Across they know this. Amazing. Now this at least I experienced. The third one that he told me, which was astonishing, he said, every person in that hotel is authorized up to 1,500 rupees to waive off without giving any explanation. Okay. So if you go there and you have a cup of coffee, or you have breakfast, or you have a burger or a meal or whatever, and you say, look, I didn't like it today. Anybody, from the guy who polishes shoes to the biggest guy, can waive off 1,500 rupees without any explanation. Empowerment. They don't have to go and ask for 25 permission. By that time, you're frustrated, you've walked out of the hotel. It doesn't work there. Right? And the fourth one, and that I think is something for us to learn, at least definitely for me to learn. He said, if somebody walks to my hotel, a chef, and says, you know what, I'm this fantastic chef who makes great cakes. And by the way, I have this beautiful art where I throw the cake in the air, and it will take 5 times twirl and can come down in the hand, and I can present it to somebody who's your customer on his birthday. Sounds very exciting. The question he'll be asked is, can you do it 1,000 times without dropping the cake? And if he says, I can do it 999 times, and one time it might drop, right? I'm human after all. He will be told, don't do it, just make normal cakes and serve. Because that one wrong customer experience will ruin the repute of the hotel. And if you look through those principles, quite similar to the journey, it's all about service, it's all about creating that wow. Right? The world is changing from employees, right? So personnel. In the past, there used to be a personnel department. I think it's dead and gone. But some of us would have done personnel management. I don't know if it's still a subject in MBA or not. But personnel management was almost like laborers. And first thing you have to look at somebody and say, ये क्या गलत कर सकता है? कौन सा law इसके ऊपर डाल सकते हैं? What is the union going to say? you always thought in that context, right? So personnel has now become human resources, right? Now it's become capital, right? I think it's now partners, strategic partners. The reason why some of the organizations give ESOPs, for example, is because they look at you as an integral part of that organization. Right? It's no longer a personnel, law-led interaction. Organizational strategy, as if you just see through the technology journey from the radio to where we are today, strategy was quite limited. You exactly knew what you wanted. You did those things, and you were very happy. Right. I think the journey moved to then suddenly wide range of products. Yeah. I think what's happening now is it's all about customer needs. So wide range of products in isolation is not good. We used to have this joke with one of the bank, right? They said, oh, what is the flavor of the day? आज इंश्योरेंस बेचना है. अच्छा, इंश्योरेंस बेचना है. घर में कोई है? हाँ, सबके पास इंश्योरेंस है. अच्छा, कुत्ते के पास भी है? नहीं तो हम कुत्ते का भी इंश्योरेंस देते हैं, right? So suddenly you wake up and say, oh, today this is the product to sell. Right? That's change. Now you need to really know what your customer wants. And if you don't know what your customer wants, you won't be a successful organization. It's all about aggregation. And that's why I believe, and some people laugh at me when I say this, I think the journey of banking is it's going to be one-stop shop, right? Where you can expect anything that's important to your life to have a connect in the banking industry. Systems, very short-sighted in the past, very myopic, right? Just for those few years. I think then it started getting into service-oriented architecture today, right? And I think today they are quite customer-driven. Also the world of self-service. Earlier you filled up forms, you waited in queues. Today you can get onto the net, update your own information, online, straight out. Right? So the whole world of technology, systems, processes is now also changing. I think the big difference is we're moving from a journey of selling to a journey of buying. Successful organizations have customers who buy their products. Organizations who sell their products often will struggle because you're forcing your products. And I think for all of us who work for the organizations, or for you who have aspirations to work in different organizations, the question you have to ask yourself is this organization that thinks strategically where its customers buy products from them rather than sell products, and you will be given a target to say, go sell so many cards or so many loans or whatever it is. It's a little bit difficult to read the slide, but the future of bank, and I'll read it for you because I think it's not kind of very clear. It's about internal and external competitive pressures. So competition, I'm sure some of you would have heard about the 5 forces, right, in some of your books, right? Demanding customers, systems and architecture, disruptive technology lead, right? Digital developments, moving from brick and mortar to online self-service. And I'm not saying it's one or the other, because there are many debates that I keep reading where people say, is it branch or is it internet? I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's the right balance. It depends on who your customer segment is. Right? What's the use of the branches in the past if they were open only from 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, and I had to work from 10 in the morning to 6 in the evening? Right? So you need to think about who your customer is and give solutions accordingly. In the banking world, when I often speak of banking, I always tell my people, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, oh, what a nice, lovely day, let's go to the bank. Right? So when do you say, I want to go to a bank? When you need something from the bank or when you have a problem. So all you need to do is ensure that you understand your customer, and when the customer reaches out to you, you fulfill that promise that you have to the customer and do it right the first time. That's all the customer expects. Right? And nobody wakes up and says, I would love to spend 5 hours today in the banking. I would rather do it in one of the malls outside, right? So we need to think about what is the organization and how do you want to see the future of that organization. And these are some of the examples, some of which I spoke about, right? Digital wallets, mobile banking. I was involved working very closely with the regulators, and we were one of the first banks into microfinance. Now, today, microfinance is a topic. When we started off, microfinance was more of philanthropy, right? From doing charity, microfinance was kind of thought to be something like charity. And I was responsible to come out with a PDA-based solution where we would give loans to vegetable vendors in very remote places. And somebody walked to me and they said, these guys can't afford technology, right? I mean, technology is only for, I mean, he almost said, he didn't say so in so many words, but what he meant was technology is only for the rich. So we said, yeah, but we have to find a way to see how they will react. So when we took this PDA and we had to give loans to these vegetable vendors in real remote parts of the country, they really loved it. You know why? Because they were used to the money lending behavior for generations, right? And you know what money lenders or some money lenders did, right? They'll give you 10, but take your thumb impression on 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, depending on whatever it is, and then you're kind of, you have to spend the rest of your life as a bonded laborer. So they never trusted people. So when we did this technology, way back, early days of those PDAs, when they put their thumb on the screen, it would show their photograph, and they would suddenly say, oh, whatever this system is, they didn't understand PDAs then probably, it recognizes, so it shows Pankaj's photograph, so they are happy. The next, it would show them money as the money they see. So, 100 rupee note, 50 rupee note, 20 rupee note, 10 rupee note. And then they would select, and that is the money they would get. So suddenly they built faith in this system, which some thought was only for the rich, saying this is more reliable than probably the money lender who sometimes puts a wrong number and gets my thumb impression and then I'm stuck. So they started trusting the technology. Today, the reach of mobile phones speaks for itself. Unless you're really big, I think you have a mobile phone. Right? Like all of us have a mobile phone. Because you can't stay away from mobile phone. Maybe only if you have 25 secretaries or something, maybe you can give them mobile phone and not have one for yourself. Every remote village in this country has mobile coverage. Yeah. One of the fastest growing mobile phone coverages anywhere in any part of the world is us in India. I was at a seminar, this was in 1994, I remember. Because I think in 95, mobiles came into India. I remember when I got my first official mobile in 95, it was 18 rupees incoming and 18 rupees outgoing per minute. Right? And people would carry the mobile phone just to tell others I have a mobile phone. Sometimes you're talking on it, but then the phone will ring, then you'll realize actually phone is working. Today, mobile phone is available everywhere. And somebody in 95 was speaking at one of the sessions which I attended, an industry forum, and they had an external speaker from one of the countries. And he said, who in India would use mobile phones, farmers or fishermen? Okay, that was the vision. Today the reality is, yes, of course, farmers, fishermen, and everybody in India uses a mobile phone. So another great example of don't underestimate what your market is. Right? Core banking, big systems, now getting cloud, it's kind of lying somewhere up there or somewhere in there, right? It's no longer that, developing system for years that happen. Inclusive banking, right? So really being socially responsible across all cadres, across all products, across all levels. Very personalized lifestyle. So what you want is what we deliver. Not the past where our parents or our grandparents had to stand in a queue with a token, and if the cashier didn't feel like if he wanted to drink tea for half an hour, you had to wait. He would drink tea for half an hour. You can't go and argue, right? Because you had to stand in the queue. Today, it doesn't work like that. An instant customer service, right? Whether it's ATMs, messaging, internet, I want it now, and I want it right. Right? That's the kind of theme that is being picked up. You are leaders and managers of tomorrow. I'm going to leave you with this thought. You need to know, if that's distinct, you know what those two things are, right? One is a magnifying glass. You normally use magnifying glass for? Class, wake up, right? You use magnifying glass for what? Really looking deep dive